And, I realized that, I couldn't give one name. I couldn't give one name of somebody that I had given unconditional love to without expecting a return. Hi everyone, welcome back to Kristine Szabo Raw. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful you're here as we move through life, bettering ourselves so that we can pay forward to the world, bettering others. I'm here in Cassis, France, where my son and I are taking a little weekend staycation. And Matthew's been really wanting to show his presence in this channel, especially since he knows that for the past few years, I've missed being here in front of you guys. And I want to thank you for asking me where I've been. As I mentioned in the last episode where you saw the house that we were living in burned down, I explained that we had moved to France and that the move when I was supposed to pick up this channel fluidly as I write 3 books and a children's book and work on the Amuse project, which is my project for parental suicide trauma recovery and suicide prevention. It didn't exactly go as I had planned the move. It was supposed to be a honeymoon fairy tale, and it turned out to be probably the greatest lesson in my life. As I think I explained, it was kind of a shit show when I moved, and what I really want to come back to here, besides explaining to you where I've been for 3 years and to thank you for your patience and your presence and your commitment to wanting to master life's pie for pieces and wanting to master being the best of ourselves so we can break generational trauma and heal ourselves so we can heal our children, especially I think, that is so vital because we have got to change what is happening in the world. We've got to become the leaders of change, and we've got to be the examples of what Jesus Christ spoke on the cross. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That to me is, a lot of you guys mentioned in the comments about my interview with China, which is how Kristine Szabo Raw was founded, when China knocked on my door and said, hey, can I, bring you on to California preaching, you tell your story? And I said, yes. And she said, you got to tell your story, you got to be a voice. And it was something I'd really wanted to do. And so I did. And I want you all to know that the number one thing, I talk about this life's pie for peace and how they're all equally a part of what's important. But first and foremost, there isn't a moment from when I wake up in the morning to when I go to bed that I don't hold God, the angels, Jesus Christ in my consciousness, because my spirituality is my life force. My spirituality was the key at surviving through hardships. It's, the brain health and understanding neurofunctioning. Yes, it's absolutely number one important, because if you don't have your brain functioning, you don't have the ability to properly tap into that spirituality, because you're stuck in ruminating thoughts. You're stuck in a brain that's in the PTSD or low blood flow depression. So that's why I really say we got to understand what supplements to take. If you need medication, take medication. You got to understand how to reprogram your mindset. But in reprogramming your mindset, the first thing I say is thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to God, thank you to the divine, thank you to Jesus, thank you for my existence, thank you for source energy, thank you for allowing me to master my thoughts, to do what I need to do to take care of myself, to take care of my child, to take care of my animals, to take care of my projects, to take care of my career, to take care of my home, to take care of myself. And today the hardest thing that we face is interpersonal relationships, bar none. I think you're all going to agree with me that the interpersonal relationships that we have are the ones that give us the most grief, and the ones that are the hardest, the ones that stay stuck in our minds. If we have a fight with our loved ones, or our children are acting out, or colleagues at work, or whatever it is, we can start ruminating, and we can start moving away from that which we need to focus on. And so how do we handle these things? And so that's why I go back to Jesus Christ, which is, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And I'm going to tell a story, which is when I was 21 years old and I had come out of the eating disorder clinic. I was invited to stay at a monastery in Australia. Father Joseph, who was the very close family friend of my boyfriend at the time in Sydney, he asked me one day, how are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing so good. I have all these ruminating thoughts. I can't quiet my mind. And he said, I'm inviting you to come to stay with us on the monastery. And, having had an atheist father and an agnostic mother, I didn't really know what that meant, but I felt that I needed to go and trust him. And so I did. And I showed up, and there was, he invited me into this little tiny room with one bed and one little desk. And there was a painting of Jesus Christ on the wall, one. And I didn't really know who Jesus was. I knew that we celebrated Christmas. I didn't know anything else. Sorry for my ignorance, but that's how I was raised. But I just laid there, looking up at this picture, and I was like, what am I doing here? And I had no food to binge on. I had no TV to distract me. At the time, we didn't have iPhones. It was a tough moment. But the story is, the next morning, Father Joseph invites me into his office, and he says to me, Kristine, I want you to do an exercise for me. And I said, sure. And he said, I want you to go outside today, and I want you to take this little piece of paper and write on it 5 different people who have showed God's love to you, and draw a circle around it, and bring it back to me. And I was like, God's love? And he said, well, what do you know about God? And I said, I don't know anything about God. And he said, oh, okay. And I explained to him the story of my upbringing. And he said, okay, well, when I talk to you about God, just think of the word love. That's all I want you to do. Think about love. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go outside on the grass, and it was Sydney, Australia. So blue sky, sunny, beautiful. And I take out this piece of paper, and I was like, okay, well, he wants me to write down 5 different people who have showed this God's love to me. And that was easy. I was like, okay, my mom, my brother, my boyfriend's mom, my boyfriend, and I can't remember, maybe my boyfriend's dad. And I drew a circle around it, and next day I go back inside, and he says, let me see what you did. And so I showed him, and he goes, very good. He goes, now today I want you to go outside, take another piece of paper, here's your pencil, go outside and write 5 different people who you have showed God's love to, and draw a circle around it. Then come back to me. I was like, okay. Go outside. I sit on the grass, and I look at the paper, and I stop myself. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. If this guy is telling me to write God's love, whom I've showed God's love to, that feels like an unconditional love. I start thinking about more the word God, more the word love, and something came to me that he wasn't just talking about the love that I had operated on for the 21 years of my life, which was, I loved my mother because I expected her to love me back, and I loved my boyfriend, but I expected him to love me back. And I realized that I had been going through my life giving love with an expectation to get that back. And now this Father Joseph, this priest, was telling me, take it further. When did you love unconditionally? When did you show God's love? Because Jesus and God, they don't expect love back. They love for love. And, I realized that, I couldn't give one name. I couldn't give one name of somebody that I had given unconditional love to without expecting a return. And I couldn't write one name down. Not one. Can you? Is the question I'd like to ask you today. Can you say that you operate in an unconditional love? That you give yourself without expecting back? That we are the people that this world needs to see, because it's a crazy humanity out there. And people are walking around without consciousness and without understanding the impact of their actions and their words. And it's not their fault. They say that people who hurt are hurting. And so to finish the story, I walked back into Father Joseph's office and he said, "How did you do?" And I said, "Not good. My paper's blank." And he said, "You understand?" I said, "Yes, I do." And that was a changing point of my life. That shifted me forever. And I touch on this story in this docu-interview that I just made that you guys can see out on YouTube, about how I founded this Life's Pie for Peace. And I talk about this story, and I want to share with us this story today, because these interpersonal relationships that we have got to step outside of ourselves, and we have got to become like Saint Mother Teresa and Jesus Christ. And I'm not trying to put us on a pedestal, but what I'm trying to do for us is to allow us not to be so impacted by what people do, because what people do is really hard, really hard. And what I've done now these past years, that I've been going through some really tough challenges with this move, because I had a wedding canceled 20 hours before the ceremony, and I had some really hard things happen. And the only way that I could get through them and continue for myself and for Matthew and this project and my modeling career is to understand that me, has to be able to be the best of myself, to live without judgment, to live with continuing to try to understand what the other person's position in front of us is, and to open our hearts. And if we need to, and this is what I need to explain, when we need to, and if we need to, protect ourselves, because we do need to do that. We have to just remove ourselves from the situation. If you find yourself triggered in a situation, or if you find yourself in front of somebody that's triggered, that's acting to you in a way that hurts you, makes you uncomfortable, questions yourself, all you need to do is remove yourself. And you don't have to be aggressive about it. You don't have to be nasty about it. You just say, I'm sorry right now. I need to step away. I need to protect myself. I just need to take some time. And then you allow some time, you come back, and you work through the situation. This goes back to awareness of others, okay, in the pie. Awareness of self and awareness of others. And it's okay to have to step away and protect. In fact, it's really important we do, especially those of us who are sensitive, who have trauma, because our traumas leave us with vulnerabilities, with sensitivities. And so we need to make sure that we protect ourselves and that we keep ourselves in a higher vibration and the ability to just continue loving and continuing to stay in environments that we can stay kind to ourselves and kind to the others, and allow time to reflect and heal. And, you know, yesterday I had a really tough situation happen to me, and it kind of hit me in shock. And I was like, whoa, I just need to remove myself from this situation right now. And so I did. I took Matthew, we removed ourselves. We came to this beautiful little place here that you'll see. And I actually said yesterday, I said, I'm not going to make any decisions about today until I sleep. And tomorrow I will wake up and I will know that I'll be able to make the right decisions for today. And that's what happened. And not only that, but knowing that, I had a blessing to be able to shoot this. All these little magic things started happening in the universe that allowed me to have this quiet moment, this block of time to give back to you what I wanted to give back to you. And I really thank you for being here and allowing me to share these things with you. And what I'd love from us in this channel, what this channel is for, is that we can share our stories together and we can be in a safe space of, you know, supporting each other, of sharing tools. Like, I really appreciated somebody, one of you lovely people, a fan of Seinfeld is all I know about this person, but, you know, commented about, shared a video on cognitive behavioral therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy is absolutely fundamental tool. Dialectical behavioral therapy too. If you want some more information about this, we're going to talk about this, because I actually did a year-long study, an intensive course, private and group therapies of dialectical behavioral therapy in a company called CBT California. So we can talk about that. I'll talk about that. But if there's anything else you want to share with the group, some tips and tools of how we can be better, how we can master more what we've got in our life's pie, please, let's be open to it. And be open to write to me about, what do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to hear? What do you want to share? And because I love you and I'm here for you. And together we're going to make this world a better place. Okay? Peace out. Thank you, each and every one of you. I love you beyond. We're warriors, spiritual ones. Peace out.
Kristine, where will the world take you today? And will you bring Matthew? Maybe he'll ride the ocean's wave. So maybe you walk along the beach, watch where the ocean meets the sky, sit in the sands of